Alright guys, in today's video, I'm just going to be going over some decks that I think you could do well with in the 5-win streak event. It's essentially all the decks I covered in my meta report. They're meta for a reason because they're more powerful than most decks. So I'm just going to hop right into it, and we're going to start with a Mewtwo list. Now obviously this Mewtwo list is a little different than what you would typically see, but I think it just, kind of like proves the point that you can do well with Mewtwo with a bunch of different configurations. Now obviously they're only like 1 to 3 cards different from each other because every single Mewtwo deck is going to be running the 2 Gardevoir lines, the 2 Mewtwo's, and then generally it's Mew or Jinx. I personally prefer a Mew because it gives another attacker in the mirror match, can potentially help maybe in like a Charizard match, another secondary attacker against Celebi potentially. But the main reason is because it's 130 HP and can block really well. And this one also has a single point Mewtwo, which actually has been seeing some success again, kind of like it did during the first season. But I think I would either run a second Geo or split between Geo Blue because in the mirror match it stops your opponent from being able to side drive you back, which is huge, and Geo because it will hit opposing executors in one shot, which does come up quite frequently. Also it counters the mirror match's opposing blue, so that's just kind of up to you. And the only other change you might want to make is splitting Leaf and X speed, but I totally understand wanting to run 2 Leaf, but most of the time you see a split there. But yeah, there's a bunch of different ways to successfully play Mewtwo, and this is one of them, and the ones that I just mentioned. Okay, now we have the helmet deck of the format. This is Gyarados. What makes this so strong is everything outside of being one-shot by Gyarados quickly changes between the pings with Drud and Greninja, basically allowing you to one-hit everything in the game with it. Mewtwo is extremely popular, and Gyarados picks on Mewtwo very badly, and the only real weakness to this deck is essentially Cel Superior and Hitmonlee. But if you dodge those cards, this deck is really solid. It's been doing ridiculously well. You also have turn 1 compensation in the form of Misty and being able to evolve Greninja faster, and you can also just cheese your opponent out of games, which is always really good whenever you're trying to perform well. Just having some kind of cheese ability is always great. Alright, next we have the Pikachu Striker variant. This one's a little bit different. Sometimes you won't see the Electabuzz, you'll see like a double Zapdos or something like this, but I really like this version because if you don't see Cel Superior, you can still hit Magikarp and or Gyarados and weaken it with Electabuzz. Anyway, you can cheese with Dedenne if you're in a position where you couldn't win otherwise. This could potentially buy you some turns. But this is the essentially tournament stock list that we've been seeing for a while. I don't think I would run 2 potions. I think if I was in the event, I would run 2 Giovannis because it allows Pikachu to one-shot Drud, which is probably going to be everywhere during this event. But outside of that, I think I wouldn't change anything. It seems like a good list to me. All right, next we have my favorite deck of the format, Executor Cel Superior. I do really like this execute here that gets more energy, helps you pivot. I don't like running the single point executor. I'd much rather run 2 Ericas for sustain, but I totally understand if you want to run another executor. I think it's fine to do. I personally like the Snivy with 70 HP, so that way it can be 2-shot by Cel Superior, Hitmonlee. And then of course you got the 2 research. I really like the 1 X speed 1 leaf split. That's the same thing I run. And 2 Pokeballs. Really strong deck. It's been doing very well this format. Alright, next we have the Charizard Hybrid list. I just went with the Hybrid list because obviously if you just want on Arcanine, you take out the Zard stuff, you double the Arcanine. If you just want an Arcanine, you take out the Zard stuff and double it. But the Hybrid version does pretty well. And you can one-shot Gyarados, potentially one-shot Mewtwo's. The Arcanine can give you an edge against Pikachu potentially. Mew is just another secondary attacker that you can manually build while you build up your fire Pokemon with Inferno Dance. Then we've got 2 research, 1 Sabrina, 1 Leaf, 2 X speed, 2 Pokeball, 1 potion. I still like the 1 potion. Obviously a big boost to this whole archetype is having Leaf, so you can pivot more easily into Moltres. The very first turn you can Inferno Dance, which is nice. The con of running this kind of deck though is you have more basics, so it's harder to find Moltres, but almost seems like it's a necessary evil right now. Next deck is Fighting Aerodactyl. There's a bunch of ways to build this. Instead of going Primeape, you can go with double Farfetch, which I also think is really good. What's good about Primeape though is that it can 2-shot Drud and then not die to it, where Farfetch'd has to attack 3 times and 3 times 20 is 60, so it'll trade with Drud, which is unfortunate. Another thing you can do if you see a high concentration of Gyarados, you can just simply add in another Hitmonlee and give yourself more of an edge there. Marshadow is fantastic into Pikachu, and what I really like about these kind of decks is you can make your opponent have to basically get 3 knockouts a lot, which is you know, really hard to do sometimes, especially if you end with an EX. But yeah, we got 2 Sabrina, 1 Geo, 2 Research, 2 Pokeball, 2 X Speed. I personally like to run a Leaf in these kind of decks because if I need to get Hitmonlee into the active spot, I really want to make sure I'm able to pivot into it. But I totally understand why it's not included here. Definitely not necessary. Good deck. And I just wanted to include like kind of like an old deck in case maybe you haven't opened up that much Mythical Island. But essentially, Starmie is still a great card, and Articuno can still cheese with Misty. You can still skip current turns with Misty. We now have Leaf, so we can pivot Articuno out of the active spot easier, so it is a buff to the deck instead of just having to have the X speeds. And then we've got the 2 Geos, which I think is correct because Starmie with Geo again one hits Drud. And then you've got Sabrina, Research, Pokeball, and 2 Potions, since you have a really large supporter package since you're only running 6 Pokemon. So this is just another way to get it done without needing like all the new cards. So that's why I wanted to include it. But yeah, guys, those are some decks that you can use for the 5-run streak event. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.